before.
All right. My name is Eva Dixon. I'm an Australian artist based in London. I make work with found industrial materials, like this.
Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm a painter based in London. I've also been doing a research project on penetrative for the last 3 or so years.
Yeah. Alrighty. How do you want to start this? Do you want to walk? Actually,
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I can talk. I've got an idea about this.
Oh yeah, the question you didn't ask before the camera got going.
So the thing I keep thinking about is, so in 2006, Patch Bulker crashed into the Newcastle Harbour, where I'm from, and my grandparents took me to see it, and it was the largest thing. Besides when I was in Cyprus, my dad was seeing these really large mining machines. It was the largest thing I'd seen. So it was directly into the beach, and you looked up, and it was just this massive a hole. It was the most remarkable thing. And although it didn't have masks, I can't help but think of shipwrecks in combination with this. And
Do you know the title?
no,
The title is
Tell me.
Broken Nest.
okay,
So I think that like it does have that kind of things coming apart
Yeah.
and like the remains of them kind of being there.
the first large work I ever made in 2022 was called Trainwreck, and it's named that because I was looking at the time at the largest rail accident at the Paris International train station, and it completely plowed up at the front of the building, and it also looks like this, which is really interesting.
I love it. You find a thing and you deep dive.
That's the thing, yeah. Always
And you
interested
look at
so
all of these
many,
things.
yeah, so many things.
So you think it started the shipwreck thing?
Yes.
Started
A thing.
a wreckage.
But now and cars, and then I'm thinking about it in relation to this and sort of absent space, and even the way the paint has dried on that surface, having something similar to topographical maps.
Maps.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. So something very legible about that.
I mean, it's interesting to talk about maps because Prue, during the war, during the Second World War, she was working in kind of the maps department, like in the 40s.
Oh wow,
England.
that's very cool.
And so I think looking at a lot of her works, maps become something that I've spent a lot of time like looking at, and then the work itself is obviously coming from the things that I'm seeing like around in the city and the surfaces.
Yeah.
And it's nice, I think, if you can have a surface where you don't know whether you're looking at like the macro scale of a map or whether you're looking like at a really like zoomed in map.
Yeah,
So I really enjoy that you get maps from that, because it wasn't really like a conscious decision, but it's, this, if you've been looking at something for years and years and years, even if you're not thinking about it, you're making the work, it just kind of
It's
comes
completely
out.
inescapable. It's I keep thinking about the reference images you have of walks you have that could just as well be like a topographical map as it could be also.
Because I think I think it's interesting when there's like quite a conscious like bit of ambiguity within the work.
Yeah.
Of like people can read it in different ways, because I think it adds that kind of that uncertainty of like, is it this or is it that? And then you start to sort of question like, are there other things that I've like assumed it's this?
Yeah.
And maybe it could be that. And I just think it's like it's a question that I quite like the paintings to raise, of you not knowing exactly what it is that you're looking at, like the macro or the micro.
Why?
Because I think a lot about this idea of like assumptions as a concept and how we don't often notice things. So like a lot of the work comes from these like photos I've taken of like overlooked places. And so it's like, how do you raise that in a painting? You've got to bring up the question.
Paintings don't also historically even allow for that, because they've been used so often as a tool perpetuating religion that they don't leave much up to the imagination, because they were designed in part for the illiterate. Because you're creating these paintings to communicate ideas. Yes, exactly. And I think it's really freed. Oh, thank God that happened hundreds of years ago. But it's really freed us though from that. It's the same thing photography's experienced since like graphic design has taken off in some ways. Photography became tied to advertising, so it was inescapable. So anyone who was taking photographs, it suddenly became this means of like communicating generally a capitalistic idea. Painting was also tied to this at one point, and then now I think as you're able to move past that, there's so many things that painting still hasn't done that it could do. That's really very exciting to me. Painting has promise that's unexplored, maybe.
Are you a secret painter, Eva?
Maybe. I do love painting. I think I'm most critical of painting in terms of any work that I look at.
But it's interesting you bring up photography, because I think since I've known you, I've always thought of you as like an assemblage person. but actually you have taken a lot of photographs. And there was that show, in the show that you did at
last year.
Yeah, you did that like
for me. Yeah,
that was interesting to bring photography into Assemblage. That felt quite different for me, and also to put yourself into the work.
That's where that started though. So I'd seen Sigma Polk's silk works from the 1970s, and I'd been very frustrated about, very frustrated about the issues. Roland Barthes talks about this in On Photography. On Camera Lucida, I apologise, that's Susan on Dog. Anyway, too many books. He talks a lot about how if you pass someone an image, they identify, that's my sister, that's my brother, that's my cousin. Mm-hmm. And this really, it unfortunately becomes very redundant because people are looking for truth within an image. It's never able to escape that. And I think Sigma Polk's silk works really successfully circumnavigate the requirement for an image to have to represent something, because suddenly you have confronted with the stretcher as a surface, because they're these amazing translucent works. You're having to look at multiple things. And so when I was figuring out what I wanted my work to do when I was about 19, I kept coming back to this issue of being frustrated that a photograph didn't really have a surface. Because no matter how much attention you draw to it, people look for what's inside it. And so I think that's something I'm still considering now. And that work, I took that photo when I was 21, and I had to take it off myself because it was during COVID and there was no one else around. I never wanted to be the feature in that work. I was sort of dealing a lot with my sexuality at the time, and I'd seen Catherine Opie's photograph, Dyke, and so I'd recreated that, and there's more photos in that series of me wearing boxing gloves, half-dressed, which I'm pretty sure I'll be working with again soon, but it's taken me about 7 years to get around to understanding what those images are. And even in my show that just had an incubator, those works that stacked, VHS stacks.
Yeah, I love them.
Yeah, well, they make them physical, right? You can't ignore them, you have to walk around them like people.
It's so actually, Antruit, do you know Antruit?
No, someone did tell me about it.
Yeah, because she makes those like sculptures. I was watching.
Oh, the stones, are they the stacked stones?
No, not the stacked thing, but she talks about how it took painting and put it onto the floor, and then she took colour and she stood it back up again.
That's wonderful.
And she's got a show.
Resurrection.
Yeah, she's got a show in Dusseldorf at the moment, so she's very like present on her. But those is very the stacks, and she talks about how people get quite like confronted by these columns that she makes because they take up the same physical space as the person.
Yeah.
And so it was very interesting when I saw that work, because it was very interesting because you had not only like the imagery itself, which some people would, I suppose, be considered like quite explicit, but then you also have the fact that these people were like taking up space that was like your space, and so you were like forced to like see these women as actual like physical women, not just as these objects that they were in the magazines that you'd like taken.
Well,
very clever.
Thanks. Well, my uncles, when we had Christmas dinner in Australia, they have really glorified sheds, so the sheds are carpeted. They're very grand, and that's where you
with armchairs?
No, fold-out chairs, if you will. So it's like you're at the beach indoors, and it's very hot summer out, so you're sitting there and you look up, and there's a woman holding a 4X, which is a beer, half naked.
What do you put them in?
Oh, a stubby holder.
Yeah.
Reaching out and passing it to you, she's half naked and she looks quite seductive. And the thing that I kept coming back to is not only have I been confronted by those images my whole life, and interestingly, people that tend to sometimes struggle with my recent work are mostly cis men because they feel like it's inappropriate, but they're the same people going home and having that connection to those images. Whereas, so there's sort of a sexual element, they can't help but see the female body as being sexualized, or a woman's body as being sexualized. Whereas when I look at those women in my uncle's shed, I'm quite confused by the fact they look nothing like my mom. And there's also like 20,000 copies of them in sheds across Australia, and they're all watching us. And I think that sort of idea that they're everywhere and multiplicit is a lot like the pilgrimage to see Madonna, and then the replication of the Madonna image throughout the world as being like a way to disseminate an idea. So I feel like I'm kind of abducting one of these women from this like horrible chokehold they have of being in some sleazy homemade bar, and then resurrected again as like a low culture object in art space. And that's kind of the same with this work. Like Rihanna's in here, he's from the BBC Gladiator.
From the original?
Yes. Yes, which wasn't intentional because I'm not interested in historical images. It's more just that I don't recognize the people, and in the past collectible images didn't have so much branding on them, so it gives a lot more space for me to work with the body. Whereas a lot of these more, like a modern football card has way too many stats. I really just want to see muscular thighs. I want to objectify a man, So it's like, where do I find those things? Or like David Beckham's haircut or these like cutouts and interfering with them. So one side is like branded, so it's like a man in a van, and the other side is David Beckham.
There's a lot of keyrings here.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing this is like a fraction of the keyrings that you've collected.
Yes.
When did it start? Why did it start?
So a few things. So I think that when I collect things, it's a bit like an alphabet, and unless I have a full alphabet, I feel like I can't start.
Yes.
I know this is unique for you too.
I'm trying to paint an alphabet. Anyway.
Oh, because of it. No, I'm Ursula Le Guin's alphabet book or no?
No, it's Sheila Hetty one.
That's Sheila Hetty,
but also a very good book.
I was like, is it connected?
Kind of connected in a way, in that she like I've totally stolen this question.
No, it's good.
But she like compiled those diaries for like 10 years, and then she ordered them alphabetically. And I guess I sort of think of, I've been like compiling these images, you've been compiling
That's
these.
What I feel like the objects.
And then I'm trying to sort of like paint my own alphabet so that I've got like my own language up on the studio wall to sort of like give me clues to the paintings.
Well, Abby Warburg, do you know much about Abby Warburg?
Nothing.
You know the Warburg Institute in Bloomsbury?
Yeah.
So he, in the Second World War, I believe he was a Jewish man and was like, they're going to destroy all of my research, so it was shipped to London, which is why we have the Warburg Institute in London. I actually know very little about his field of research except for one thing I find interesting about him, and he created the first visual atlas. So it was the first time that images had been connected instead of epistemologically through words. It was the first time someone's done this, and there were these 4 or 5 massive boards where it'd be like an image of a woman's body and a natural landform connection between those things, for example. And so in my show in the incubator, you'll love it, incubator downstairs, there was a wall of like women and men like in these keychains that were connecting and having a conversation.
Kind of like pinball thing.
Because that was like my Warburg visual atlas. And those collages I've made that are connected to this work all feed off that. And in some ways, I think the keychains are like a sentence. So they sort of form a sentence. I don't mean like something that you could actually read into as per word, but the way they're connected is sort of narrative, and it forms maybe a little paragraph. And that's kind of how I think about them, and that's how they come together. But with the keychains, it's because I've become frustrated by badges and pins. I'd sort of worked with those, and I was like, I need more. It feels like sculpture is the next move. I was really wanting to make things more spatially, and the work has been sculptural for so long. And so I started buying everyone's collections online. So I own probably 300 keychains at least. And I've been working with them for some time now, and I love the challenges presented by things that aren't designed to be connected together, but connected to objects as sort of like individual markers.
I was thinking about this like in terms of collecting, and like, you know, if people are selling this, I'm guessing they're selling it for not that much, and they're kind of thinking of it almost like it's rubbish.
Yes.
And you know,
love rubbish.
You know, Prue loved a skip dive.
Who doesn't love a skip dive?
So she would like, apparently you'd be walking along the street with her, and she'd stop speaking, and you'd see like her feet up in the air because she'd like seen a nice piece of wood in a skip that she wanted. And I was just thinking about that, like that way of artists like looking at things that other people are like throwing away or like selling on eBay for not very much, and how we see this like tremendous value in these like disregarded things.
So it's, as Maggie says actually, and is it on
Which
Love?
one?
Is it on Love? What is it that bottom book called? She has a
Like Love.
Like Love. She has a line where she's talking about an artist saying that it's a well-kept secret amongst artists, the relationship between rubbish and artwork. And I, for some time, have kind of felt like I'm someone who's like has hoarder tendencies. Where is the line between the work and what do I make with it? And I love the beauty of artwork is you can imbue meaning into nothing. And every time you make something, though, you bring something into the world no one asked for. So it's a quite complicated relationship to value systems that I find really remarkable. Like the fact that I can take a lowbrow object and place it in an art context and it reads entirely differently is really quite.
I think that idea of value system, that's where I really got this thing of, so you know when I make the paperwork and I cut the edges? Because I really love the idea that I finish this thing that then becomes like a commercial object, and then I like cut it and I like, you know, I like not destroy, because obviously it like becomes part of the work, but like to not buy into that system that now that I have like finished a painting and it becomes this like commodity, that I as the artist can still be like, well, it's not a commodity and I can cut it if I want to.
What does that do for you?
I think it just reminds me that irrespective of the system that's going along, that's happening around the work, that the most important thing is keeping myself entertained in the studio.
Well, it's your work, it's for you. That's the thing. Artists, I think when artists say they're not selfish, they're lying, because we make things for ourselves, and I don't think there's a problem with that, though. I think more people should do that. And I think, but that's where I think the beauty of, if you have a positive art community, that's where it comes in, because, the cost of those things is inconvenience. To be part of a family of artists is to put yourself in points that are inconvenient.
Yeah.
That's where, a village is made, right? And I think the time you spend alone is sacred, and more people outside of art should have this, because there has to be something for you. And I think what you're doing when you cut those up is you're declaring this is still mine.
It's still mine.
And the thing is, I'm not even interested in when I finish making. I'm interested in the process. So if that means something's got to go for something else to be made, then it must. But I completely agree with you.
And that's why I really like having the messy edges on work, because I think often when they're finished, they look like, it's kind of a couple of decisions, bish bash bosh.
You've viewed something to an object, but you haven't. You've merged it. It's become the object.
I've done these layers and layers. I've made all of these decisions, and then I've gone back on them, and all of those things, they become such an important part of the work. And I also don't want to hide the fact that I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where I was going,
and I went
anyway.
I like that I can see the effort in your work. But that's good. No, it's good. Effortlessness, it's cool, okay. The problem with effortless painting, this is my hot take.
Go on.
Is I actually think sometimes when a surface is too shiny and too polished, there's no grit to hold on to. And when there's no grit, I slide right off the surface. And then what is there left? What am I looking at?
Because also it's if I want to see that the artist has been exploring and doing things that they don't know how to do, and is dipping and is moving into the uncertainty. And if I see something that, it's too clean and pristine, I'm a bit maybe there was struggle that we didn't
Is this
see.
formula, or is it where is the, you can tell when someone falls out of love with it, I think you can tell that first show when someone has lost the spark.
This is why I always love coming to your show, because every time I see you pushing at the edges, so I'm
I love making my work. It is so frustrating. I love it.
I love making my
Because it's the most amazing thing. And I had a gallerist tell me when Charlie and I were at the fair in Spain, she came over to me, really grumpy woman, you're going to fall out of love with it, you'll hate this one day. I remember looking at her and being you might hate it, I don't hate it. And I also find that very ageist too, because I've had the same energy for life since the moment I was born. And I don't think
a lot
going to fade. If anything, I have too much. And I don't know. If that happens, then I will know I am done as an artist, because I would have answered whatever questions I'm currently seeking to answer. Yeah. Otherwise, I wouldn't be making anything.
And maybe you'll get there. I mean, it seems pretty unlikely to
No,
me.
I don't think that's ever going to happen. I'd be so quick.
But as you know, I didn't always make work, and there was something fundamentally missing. I was how do I process this work?
If you don't scratch someone told Ollie this recently, that if you don't scratch that itch, it never goes away.
No.
It will never leave you. You can try all you want to find something else.
You can move countries, you can move jobs, but if you don't find the thing,
it sits there permanently. And I actually think it's devastating the amount of people that don't allow themselves that outlet, because I think a lot of people feel this way.
I mean, I was so incredibly scared, admit to people around me, when I was 30, of I want to go to art school. I was people are gonna think.
I think that's a great time to go to art school.
Perfect time to go to art.
Because we have this issue all the time with students where they don't know what else to do, and we unfortunately operate in a system where education is capitalized upon financially. So we throw people into education that never should be there, but then there's people like you who needed it, who wanted it, who was seeking it out. But your experience of it is going to hit you so much more intensely because you know what it is to have lived.
Maybe.
You've made decisions, you've had careers, you understand the value of your own time. And I think that a lot of people who start, and for me too, when I started education at 18, I think I never took it for granted, because my parents never had the opportunity, and I didn't realize you could study art, so I was I have to do this. But for a lot of students, they don't feel that way, and they miss out on what they're actually there for.
Yeah. It's interesting, because I sometimes forget that we actually studied at the same time.
Yes.
But I always feel like I'm talking to someone that's the same age as me. I think because we both have we just get so into what we're doing.
But our careers are just as long as each other's, and we both do read the same. We read a lot of the same stuff. So I think there's like always something we're talking about.
Yeah.
When the other thing I am thinking about now though is that, and one of the benefits I think we have like within the art community is that, like being that we have an age gap, our friends have an age gap. Like when we were driving up north with Olivia, both Olivia's in the car and us, and all four of us are different ages really. Well, not so much Ollie and I.
And all different experiences as well.
Like different, from different areas, different backgrounds. I actually think that's one of the remarkable gifts you get in the art world is that it's not unusual to have friends of different ages.
Because didn't you do that show in Deptford?
Yes.
With your friend?
Wayne.
Yeah.
Oh, and Wayne is 65, I believe, and like a older gay man with completely different life experiences. We have so much in common.
Yeah.
He's from a different town, different country than me. We have so much in common.
And when I did that show last year of like me and Prue and those photos of her studio, the photos of her studio were taken by a friend of hers, Sue, who's 86.
That's wonderful.
She's called Legendary Sue.
Yeah, she's legendary.
And like honestly, her life is extraordinary. And it just, before I went to art school, I felt like my world was quite small.
Yeah.
And one of the best things is, as you say, you have friends from all over the place.
Yeah.
Completely different experiences and also completely different ages.
So nice. Actually really wonderful.
And I really love that.
Like,
Obviously.
yeah.
What's next? What's going on for you? Like in the world either, as you say, you've got no ideas. So you've got no idea what's happening.
No ideas. It's wonderful. I have a project. I'm part of a fair later in the year, which I can't really talk about yet, overseas. And I start school in October, so I go to the RA in October, which is very exciting.
Which you've wanted to go ever since I've met you.
Yes,
I'm so happy.
I am.
They
It's
finally
all I think about.
aligned.
I can't wait for the work to be better. I can't wait for it to be more convincing. I can't wait until I'm confused by it even more than I currently am. I think that's going to be amazing.
Also great to have access to like workshops and stuff. So
I'm going to learn to weld. It's going to be amazing. And I have a charity project later in the year, which I will announce with time. But how about you?
I've got a print that I've just finished. I worked with a printmaker who worked with Prue. That's
I'm so
coming out in
excited about
September with Charlie. I'll show you a picture after.
I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it.
Like, it's. Can I say that? I think it's beautiful. He did.
Well, I think you're allowed to think
He
it's
did
beautiful.
such a great job. It was such an amazing process. It's really changed the way that I think about painting as well. So just like
I think this is
it's really
amazing.
nice to like have a different way of working, and then it.
And you weren't
yeah.
always convinced on the idea in addition too. You've come a while.
But it was crazy. Like I was there was like 3 people in the studio, and instead of me making things with my hands and like telling people like, please may you try this, please.
And you would have been so well.
There was a confidence that I really discovered that I had.
Amazing.
Which was great. So that's coming out, and then I'm going to have a solo show. So that'll be nice. The first time that it's like me, my ideas.
This is just you.
In the space.
Yeah.
That'll be in November in London.
That not to be missed.
And then I'm working on a project at a museum in Vienna on Prunella, which will be the biggest Prunella show that's ever happened.
That's
so
very
I'm just
exciting.
researching
That's
that,
very
which is
exciting.
quite honestly the best job ever.
Yeah, wonderful.
And that's enough to keep me busy tonight.
Yeah, for a long time. I think that is a lot.
And then just really being in the studio as much as possible. I mean, doing this is wonderful, but my favourite thing in the world is just to be in the studio.
Oh, I don't mind a little bit of vanity time.
You know?
Like the studio is where it is at, isn't it? Yeah. All right.